a trespasser among the living. It would be a lie to say that is not the way I feel. It's a weird thing that the vast majority of people I knew and were close to and hung around with are dead. And like everybody I think about, except for like three or four people, are all dead. And it's a weird feeling because it's a lot of people. You know, it's strange. Like there's no words for it really. It's strange. It's not much to be said. I can tell you though, like anytime you start fixating on death or other people dying or dying yourself, it is not something you want to start identifying yourself with because you can, and it will stay. It will cast a shadow over your whole life. It will become part of your identity, even if you feel like it's part of your identity and those feelings are even valid and reasonable, even if you give it a little time, it will change. You know, in a couple hours, it can go away. It'll probably be gone by tomorrow. Something else will happen, and my mind will be on that and not on this. But if I start identifying myself as, if I start defining myself as a trespasser among the living, then it will stay with me and it will be a omnipresent part of myself. It's very easy to make bad decisions that especially about yourself, especially if you've been taught negative things about yourself and had them reinforced by people you care about. It's very easy to take up those positions in your mind. And when I was younger, I honestly didn't know there was another way. And I thought it was a good thing because I was more willing to sacrifice and more willing to throw my life away at a moment's notice. But it's weird that all these people, I can't even count how many of them, but people, like I said, I was close with, I was good friends with some of these people, and like they die and it just doesn't matter. Like life just moves on. Not a second's hesitation. It just all goes on. You know, in television and film, there's like traumatic stuff that happens, and like it doesn't work that way. No one cares and the world just goes on. And in a year, everyone's forgotten that person ever even existed, other than they might think about it from time to time. Things tend to be more active with me. I don't forget things like that. I think about it a lot more. And in a lot of ways, that's a curse because the pain stays with you, the hurt, the loss. And it's one of the reasons you don't want to focus on it. There's exes I don't even want to know because I couldn't take knowing that. I don't ask because I don't want to know. And you know, it's it's one of those things when I'm in a mood. Uh, you never know who you're dealing with. Like, I remember after that major relationship I had fallen apart, it was like 2 months later. It was the summer because that happened in like May, I think. Because it happened right before my birthday. And I was walking through this neighborhood that I had to go through to get home, but the people in that neighborhood don't like me. And there's this like 9 or 10 year old kid on a pedal bike, and he does like a power slide in front of me, like, and the point is to try and get you to flinch, and they're gonna fuck with you. And obviously, I didn't flinch because I knew what the fuck was going on, but I would try and dress really square, and I usually try to dress pretty square. And two older guys got up from a stoop and they walked past me and slammed their shoulder into me. One of them does. Such a ludicrous thing. Like, if you ever played Punch Out or Super Punch Out with Super Macho Man, I mean, just a wild punch, full 180 rotation. I mean, just ridiculous. But I hit that kid dead on in his ribs, and I felt it give, and he made a noise like, oh, like it sounded like he had just busted a nut or something. But and he goes down, and he can barely breathe, and he's like all gasping and whimpering and fucking dick. But his buddy takes off. And now I wasn't gonna do nothing to his buddy because his buddy didn't do anything to me unless he like swung on me after or something like that. But his buddy just takes off, and because I hit that one kid, it's, mine's just in that state, and I just take off after his buddy now. And like it's like 2 blocks away, he runs up on this porch, and I get to the porch, and there's like 7 or 8 other guys all sitting there, and like there's like this perfect 2 seconds where we're all just standing there looking at each other, and I see them start to move, and I just took off, and like I burned them pretty quick because I'm surprisingly fast. But yeah, that was always funny. You never know who you're dealing with. Like, it's often why it's best not to fuck with people. I mean, just fucking with people in general is a bad idea. It's it's not a healthy mindset. But I always used to compare it to like people I knew. Like, they'd stop the car in the middle of the street sideways and get out. Like, they'd block traffic and everything. And I mean, I remember so many times I was like, oh no, I know what's gonna happen here. And I mean, it's something stupid, like somebody honk the horn, and now there's gonna be some fucking terrible beating on this guy who has no idea. But you know, that's just the way things were. And it's weird because like that was like the world, and now it's almost like that is a thing of the past. Like, violence still happens and stuff, and there's still bad areas and all that shit, but it's so different. And so many of these kids I see around, they're all acting hard, and they're all acting like they're shooters. It's like you've never been in a fight in your life. You've never seen blood. Like, you, they're just fragile and frail, and they're so frightened. And because they're so frightened, they want to be tough. And uh, I can understand it because I can relate, but we're two different species entirely. Like, what my life was like and what theirs are, two different things. Um, like the ways people were treated back when I was a kid, it's weird and stuff like that. Like, I can't imagine it would fly like in the modern world, like showing up to school with bruises all on you and shit like that, and nobody says anything. Like, it was normal. Like, people don't get involved in other people's lives, and It's weird being so disconnected from the modern world. Like, it's not like I ever fit in the past. It's not like I ever had a place or belonged to a group or anything like that. Like, I was always on the outside. I was always off on my own. Even when I was around the people, I was close with. Like, they could be in a group, but I could never be part of it. I was never like them. I was something else, something different. Yeah, it's weird, but they're all like dead. It is a weird thing because, like I said, I can't even count how many people at this point. Like, it has to be over 100. Uh, I stopped going to funerals in my 20s because I just couldn't take it anymore. The, the parents always wanted me to speak. Like, you speak so well. We want you to say something. Like, what the fuck am I gonna say? We did heroin together. We robbed houses. We stomped some guy out. Like, no. You just make shit up. Try to focus on the positive. But I couldn't do it. And I just stopped going in my 20s. Like, no more funerals. I'm not doing this anymore. No. You know, but I didn't know that this was a way that people feel, which is the only reason I'm even talking about it now. Because when I was growing up, I didn't know people had feelings like this. Like, I thought I was literally the only one in the world. And I'm not saying feeling like a trespasser among the living is exactly a normal thing, but I never heard. The only person I ever read who I thought was honest was the Marquis de Sade. And that's because he said such fucked up shit about himself. I was like, well, this guy's probably not lying about other stuff then. Because I could always tell people weren't giving the straight story. But I never knew what the truth was. And people have a way of like whiting out or not talking about the stuff that makes them weak or petty or envious. Things that everyone feels, but people just lie about it because they don't want to be seen like that because they're so insecure. They can't, like, deal with the idea that people would associate them with those things because they're frightened of it. And usually it's because they don't live up to what they portray themselves as in some way that is often very fundamental. But so I figure I'll talk about it on the off chance it's helpful to someone. In my eyes, I'm probably just wasting my time. But you never know. You never know. It could be useful to someone at some point. But it's a weird thing. Like, everybody's gone. There's like memories of people and places and seeing where people were. Like, every street I go down, there's some memory attached to it from somewhere, and all those people are dead. Like, it's tough to consider. Like, they were people with lives and feelings and all that shit, and There was no resolution in their lives. They died filled with pain and anger and resent. Like, no resolution, no no meaning to it. It just happens. So you don't want to do that with your life. Ideally, you don't want to waste your life on feeling miserable. It takes more effort to be positive. It takes more effort because you have to do things to escape. And drugs are not an acceptable escape. That's not the escape I'm talking about. But like, you have to find new stimuli for yourself. I would, frequently say things like, do things you never saw yourself doing. That's a lot of what I try to do. It's things that I could never see myself doing when I was younger, things I would reject out of hand. Those are often good things to do, unless they're like horribly negative, but stuff like dancing. Like, I am, it's something I could never imagine myself doing. So like, I put effort into learning how, because like, it's something that I consider so ridiculous, especially for a person like myself. But like, it's helps break down those barriers, because a lot of those things are self-imposed. The only ones who even know they exist, when you're in your own mind, we do it to ourselves, type of thing. Uh, but so new stimuli is important, and negative feelings change very quickly. But if you start defining yourself in them, if you start identifying yourself as those negative feelings, it never changes. Like, it will be with you forever. You know, this has gone on as the trespasser among the living for, I don't know, a day and a half, something like that. And you know, it might be gone in a couple hours. I'm gonna go running in a little while. After I finish working out, I'm gonna go running, and that might fix it. And if not, it'll be gone tomorrow or the next day. But if I were to start like defining myself in it, and it's a catchy little title, but the cost, what it would do to me and what it would do to my life, and it ain't nothing good. And there's already enough strikes against me. Like, there's already so much wrong with me. There's already so few people I can relate to. Like, when I meet people on the street and I'm talking to them, it's like there's no point in any kind of deeper conversation, because I know they won't get it. Like, it would just be confusing or upsetting to them. There's no point in talking about like deeper emotional stuff or like heavy stuff. You don't want to just bring that up out of the blue on people anyway, but like, I mean, their minds aren't equipped to handle it. And so it's like, what's even the point? But that's, once again, a negative way of viewing things. It's intentionally self-fulfilling. You know, you don't want to let things like that consume you. You want to actively resist it. I'm not saying deny the feelings. Like, I obviously don't, especially if it's true. You know, like, I do feel like a trespasser among all these people. I do not belong here. But it's not like I ever belonged anywhere else either. So, what can I say? Take it for what it's worth, I guess.